Welcome, everybody, back to the Nuggets of Gold podcast and YouTube channel. So for today's episode, we're going to be talking about Jimmy Garoppolo and really why he's the 49ers' Achilles heel. When we look at this season, we've seen the recipe to win. Take a look at Aiden's hat. If you're confused, the answer is clearly to run the damn ball. That has been what it is all year. We look at these games where they flourish. You look at the Rams game. Why do they win those games? Because they run the ball like 40 times or close to 40 times, and they dominate in time of possession. When they don't do that, the 49ers have played close games pretty much every time, and they've almost lost that game like every single time this year. When they're not able to run the football and honestly take the ball out of Jimmy's hands, they've struggled a lot. You look at the Packers game, their offense starts out so slow. You look at both Seahawks games, Jimmy was terrible in both those games. And I know he got pulled, well, didn't get pulled, but he got injured, and then he didn't play the second half. But in that first half, I think didn't they put up like 7 points in the first matchup? And it was like one of those things where they should have had like 3 touchdowns. It was something like that. So you look at the season, when they have not been able to run the football, Jimmy has been bad. And ultimately, I expect the Niners to make the playoffs. I don't know where you're at on that, Aiden. I do think this Emmanuel Mosley injury definitely hampers or like tempers those expectations, I think. But I don't expect them to have a chance really to make a deep playoff run because you know that it's inevitable that a bad Jimmy game is going to happen and it's going to end their season. So do you feel the same way about Jimmy Garoppolo being the Niners' Achilles heel?
Pretty much. He just limits the ceiling. Like, I feel like Kyle went into this season saying his floor is higher than Lance's when they were both in training camp. He's like, Lance is making some questionable decisions sometimes, and his floor is lower, but his ceiling's also higher. I'm going to go with the safe option. But I mean, we're sitting at 6-6. It's hard to convince me that the Niners wouldn't be 6-6 with Trey Lance starting. So I mean, it's not the end of the world. I think Mike McDaniel said something pretty interesting that like the practice squad reps are almost better than some of the first team reps because Trey Lance gets to see different things every week. One week he's Russell Wilson, and the next he's what's his name, Matthew Stafford, just doing 2 completely different things. So there's definitely pros to that approach. It's not the way I personally would have gone, but I mean, Jimmy is who he is. Hoping that the Niners are able to trade him at the end of this year for, fingers crossed. I think they may be able to get a 2nd-round pick from some sucker team, but probably like a 3rd-round pick to be more realistic. And if the Niners are able to get a 2nd-rounder, which is what they gave up to get him, I think that that's a win for them. They get to pick up another pick after losing the 1st-rounder in the Trey Lance deal. But yeah, I just think that Jimmy right now, his floor is higher, but his ceiling is like 2 inches above the floor. Like, he is who he is. He's not going to change. And he's the reason the Niners are not a legitimate Super Bowl threat. Because defense has looked pretty good. They played, like, Aziz has been the unsung hero of this entire year. He's been super impressive. DJ Jones has played himself into large amount of money, which isn't awesome for the 49ers next year who have to sign him, but some team is going to pay him, and he is an absolute beast. So just kind of like not ideal for the Niners this offseason. But I mean, the expectation even going into this year wasn't the Niners are going to make the Super Bowl and they're a favorite. Like, I think we are who we are, and 2 years from now is our Super Bowl window start. Like, Trey Lance next year, people are going to freak out and be like, Niners should win 12 games. No, like, we should hope to make the playoffs every single year until we've proven that we can do that and we're ready to take the next step. But super long-winded there, but yes, Jimmy is the 49ers Achilles heel as of right this moment. Although there is some other work to be done, and you mentioned Mosley as a major question mark with the guys behind him.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. I think the first thing I want to bring up is you did talk about the trade value. Dude, at this point, I'm going with the expectations that he gets cut, that he doesn't even get traded because of this contract. Now, I think the one thing that could happen is he could get traded to a team and he's going to make a lot of money. So they could give him an extension where he ends up taking less money this year to be under contract for 2 seasons. And that might make sense for a team that trades for him. So maybe that happens. And they're doing like a 2-year rebuild, similar to what the Lions did with Goff this last year. where they have him for a couple years when they're rebuilding, and then they're going to eventually draft the quarterback to take over. But we've seen that path with a lot of guys, so maybe a team would do it. But I would think probably third rounder, or I'm sorry, a third day 3 pick, and I'm just expecting that he gets cut. So that's where I'm at on him. Which is that, I mean, that's a lot lower than you think. And I have thought in the past that it could be a third rounder. I've said that, like, I do think that they could trade him for a third rounder. I thought this last draft maybe they could get a second from the Patriots, but I think the way that he's played this year has pushed the value way down, and especially because
Patriots offered a second. Patriots offered a second-round pick. Niners wanted it first.
They would, yeah, but I don't think they would have. It was one of those things where, like, if the Patriots got into this second round and they didn't take Mac Jones, then they would have given them a second rounder.
I think it was a pre-draft thing. And it was like, we'll give you the second rounder. But if Sam Darnold can go for a second-round pick, you're telling me Jimmy can't go for like a third? Hard for me to believe.
The only reason why I think is the situation. Not that Jim, like, you can't trade for a quarterback. I think it's because everybody knows that he's going to get cut. So unless some team is like, oh, we really want Jimmy really bad, like they're really, really eager to get him, then I think that he gets cut. That's just why. Like, because like teams know they're going to cut him.
But what if you're, let's see, the Steelers, and Big Ben came out last week, told close friends that he wasn't going to be a Steeler next year. I don't know if that means that he's going to retire or what. No free agent's going to want to go to Pittsburgh, and they're good enough that they're not going to get a high pick. Might as well get a second rounder to get a solid quality-ish starter. I think Jimmy's a top 25 quarterback, maybe top. He's in that range. Like, he's made a Super Bowl before with the right surrounding cast. They have a good defense. It's a team like that who is too good to draft a quarterback high, but is like, the Panthers are another good example. Even if they want to take like a quarterback high, their defense is good enough now that they may want to push. And Matt Rule's on the hot seat. That was a team that just gave up a second rounder for Darnold. So I don't know if they'd be willing to do that again with how bad that has blown up in their faces. But I think you could get more than you think, given that he's had established success. More than some other guys, I guess. That would be my rebuttal.
No, that's totally fair. I think there's a chance. I'm just going in with those expectations because I just feel like his play's been bad, so I think it's hard to tell. I thought going into the year that they could get. I mean, we talked about the second like pre-draft about them potentially moving him for a second, and then I talked about in training camp, if you are going to like go with Lance, then you trade him for a third. Obviously, the plan has always been to start Jimmy. Doesn't look like it was a good idea. However, I will say, just to kind of defend the situation, there's a lot of coaches that believe that is the best way to develop a quarterback. And so, yes, I honestly think at this point, Kyle would rather have like played Lance looking at just this season. But I think that he truthfully believes that by having him sit a year and just redshirt a season, and like you talked about, the scout team reps are a big thing. Which is interesting. Does it mean he's going like playing in game is like the best way to get better at playing in the game? However, there's a lot of things that you can do first to build confidence going into your second year. And I think we've seen that with a lot of guys. I think we saw that with Patrick Mahomes because he was super raw. I mean, a lot of these guys that come out and they're super raw. Now, sometimes they toss him in, like Josh Allen. Josh Allen was all right. But you look like how different it's been for Josh Allen now that he's progressed and he's become able to, he can make a lot of reads. And before, when he came in the league, he'd just kind of hold onto the ball. He had a really long motion. He was a slow processor when he first came into the league. He's got a lot better at that. But Lance, I mean, it's not like he looked like you could tell that he has a natural feel for the game, but you could tell it. He is still a little bit of a slow processor. So I wanted him to start. And I think it's hurting a lot this year. But I do wonder if it's something that, and only time's going to tell with this. Like, we're not going to be able to go, oh, yeah, look at the offseason. Oh, yeah, look, there is a reason that they started. I'm like, no, we're going to see this, like, if it works. And if it works with Lance, then that's great. This season, though, has been pretty much destroyed, I feel like, because of how bad Jimmy Garoppolo has played and how bad the corner room has been. I think those two spots, one, the 49ers, it was pretty clear that they did not want Jimmy Garoppolo anymore. And they didn't move on from him. They could have traded, or they could have traded him. And if they couldn't have traded him, they could have cut him and went and signed a different veteran quarterback if they were more confident in that guy. That easily could have been a better option looking at it now because it's been that bad. And then in terms of the cornerback room, I talked about this last episode when it's just me, Aiden, but it has been an absolute disaster. You're telling me you can't go sign Brashad Breeland for $1 million or $2 million instead of having Dante Johnson now against Jamar Chase? Potentially that's the matchup we're seeing on Sunday. So like those two spots I think are killing them, but I do think that Jimmy Garoppolo, his success in the playoffs, or the 49ers success in the playoffs is going to be really hurt by him. But anything else you want to add?
What do you think about moving Jimmy Ward outside? He
I
might be our
like
best
it.
cover guy.
See, I think, but he's talked about it. I think he feels like he has a bigger impact on the game when he's a single high safety, and I think that they feel like that just because, like, if they are going to start unloading him to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, you want Jimmy Ward on the back end. I think that's the thought process. However, if it's like a clear they want to go to Jamar Chase here, we've seen that Jimmy Ward will come up and like man up on those guys. So in man, absolutely, but if they're in more of zone coverage, I'd rather see him at single high. So maybe just like situationally, but
Yeah, I mean, the Niners pick of Hufunga was interesting because you had Tart there for the year, was kind of like an interesting 5th round pick. But as you can see right now, it gives them some flexibility to move Jimmy Ward around a little bit. Because I think Tart's healthy again. He might have gotten hurt again recently, but I think it was a small thing. But gives them a good amount of flexibility. And I think Tavon Wilson's out for the year, which definitely helped with depth. But just kind of something that popped in my head right there.
yeah, I mean that I do wonder if that ends up happening, but yeah, I think that's probably it here. Anything else though you want to note on Jimmy, or you got all your Jimmy talk out?
I don't want to rip on the guy. He's our starting quarterback. I feel like everybody knows where we both stand. He's a B minus. He's a C plus. Like if everything is around him, he'll be fine. He'll win you game. That's a lie. He will lose you a game. But so this is actually interesting. I did want to talk to you about this. Mac Jones is getting this press for like being super duper good and being super pro ready and winning games for the Patriots. And I'm just not impressed. I don't know if that's because I didn't want the Niners to pick him at 3 and he's ended up being solid. So I'm going to dislike him. But I can't point at a specific game that Mac Jones won for the Patriots yet. Like last game,
No,
they just beat the Bills. He threw 3 passes. Like their defense has been super solid. And he's getting all this praise, and I totally get it. Like he's taken over for Brady. The Patriots have won 7 in a row, but do you think Jimmy would have won 7 in a row with the Patriots right now? That's really the question that I was getting to.
I
If
feel
they make
like
the 2nd round pick trade, do
yeah.
they win 7 in a row?
I mean, I think the thing that's happened is like their roster is a lot better than people think. Like, and also you cannot compare it to 2020 because it was a completely different roster. You had a bunch of guys that opted out that were not playing. Like there was a large portion of their defense that opted out right before the year, and they were just kind of stuck. Like, all right, we're gonna rock with these guys. They exceeded expectations in 2020 by just being not horrible. But then this year, like you've seen them with a pretty solid team. Like they're trying to win. And they're doing it with a rookie quarterback, which is interesting because usually they don't do it with a rookie. They do it on a rookie's deal, but it's usually in that year 3, 4, 5. And they're trying to go all in this year. And like you said, like he's not a part of like the game plan is kind of like make it super easy for him and don't have him lose us this game. I think the one thing I've been really impressed is he has amazing ball placement for some of these guys. Like we've seen Kendrick Bourne absolutely feast because Kendrick Bourne will go up and get it. Like we've seen him. He's a great red zone threat. And Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne have great chemistry because he puts it in perfect spots. That's the thing that Jimmy Garoppolo does not do consistently. So that would be my big difference. However, I would still think like Jimmy could win you, I don't know, I would say like 5 of those games. Like he's going to be pretty solid, but I think he's going to have a couple where it's so bad. The game
Let's
against the Bills, yes, he could win that one.
let's go through the schedule on this 7-game win streak. Patriots, Jets, they win by 40. I think I could have played quarterback for the Patriots that game. They scored 54 points and had like 300 yards rushing. Patriots Chargers is the closest, but it was a 3-point game. Mac Jones went 18 of 35 with 0 touchdowns. It's pretty manageable there. I
That's
feel
like
like Jimmy could
50%.
probably do not
That's yeah.
awesome. 24-6 against the Panthers, 45-7 against the Browns, 25-0 against the Falcons, 36-13 against the Titans, and 14-10 against the Bills. So this dude needs to hit double-digit points, and they're
Wait,
going to win the game.
what was the game before the Bills? The
The game
Titans?
for the Bills was 36-13 against the Titans.
And what was his stat line that game? Because I think that was the one that
23 of 32 for 310 and 2 touchdowns. But Ryan Tannehill had 93 yards passing.
Oh my. So I think that was the game that he has played like really good recently, that Titans game. But like
it's solid.
It's not about him. That's the thing. It's totally not about him. I think one thing to talk about this week too is Niners are going to be playing Jamar Chase. He is the clear rookie of the year candidate, the leader in 100%. My opinion.
Yes.
It goes him, Najee, then Mac Jones. There's no way you could tell me that Mac Jones has been better than those two players. Like that's shocking to me. So
yeah, I'm totally in the same boat. Like I understand like he's taken over for Brady. He's got big shoes to fill. They've been super duper impressive, but pump the brakes a little bit. And it could be a little bit of that hate that I mentioned where the Niners could have had him, but I don't think to use the ceiling thing, I think his floor is higher. His ceiling is so much lower than any of those other guys. Like Fields is stuck with Nagy. That sucks. Lawrence is in Jacksonville. That also sucks. And Lance just hasn't even played. So, of course, Mac Jones is going to be doing the best out of all the rookies.
Yeah. One thing I got to ask you. So, with what we've seen from Mac Jones, this will be the final thing we talk about because we've gone for a while here, and this isn't even really about Jimmy Garoppolo anymore, but it's interesting. So, looking at the Trey Lance pick and the Mac Jones pick, with what you've seen of Mac Jones this year, do you have any hesitations about taking Trey Lance at 3?
So I do not. If the Niners were an older team and needed to win now, I think you pick Mac Jones at 3. But I saw lots of stuff about this over the past couple of days. If Trey Lance plays at North Dakota State this year that just happened and goes for another 40 touchdown, maybe he throws a couple picks this time, leads them to an FCS national title. Is he the number 1 pick when it comes around? I think he is. So the Niners get to take a guy at 3. They may have to give up 2 extra first-round picks to do it. You get to sit him a year, get him in your offense for a year, and then you can unleash him next year when he would probably potentially be the number 1 overall pick. So the Niners end up looking super duper smart here. I just think the Patriots, he was perfect for what the Patriots want to do. They have a lot of older vets on the defensive end, a lot of free agents. Matthew Judon was maybe the free agent pickup of the entire year for anybody. He's been so good, but he's on the other side of 30. They got a bunch of old guys on defense. They want to win now. I think Niners did the right thing. Pats did the right thing. They're just in different spots to win over the next 5-10 years.
I completely agree. I think for the Patriots, great pick. I have no reservations about the 49ers pick right now. Like I am so happy that they went and got Trey Lance at 3. Do I wish that they would have started him earlier? Sure. But I also don't think I'm in a position to really critique Kyle on that one. So I'm going to let quarterback development go to the NFL coaching staff on that one. However, I do want to see him. That's more for like just myself. I want to watch him be a Niner and I get frustrated watching Jimmy. But I don't doubt that pick at all. Like I think that's something where I was extremely excited about the pick when it happened. I feel the same way now. What we've seen from this roster too is like, where the strong pieces are in this roster. The Niners are going to have a lot of money next year to go try to replace, to go try to get a corner, to go try to get another lineman, whether that's a tackler or guard, to go get interior defensive linemen, which we didn't know we'd need, but yep, we definitely need interior defensive linemen now. What else? A box safety potentially, and have Hufanga play the same role that he has this year. Like, there's not a ton of needs on this team, but there's some spots where you have some players that are really bad at. And I think they're going to go address that, and then you're going to see them rock with Lance. And I think it's going to look a lot better for the Niners than it does right now. But the Patriots are definitely happy with what they did. I think both teams are going to be very happy. One other thing, though. The Niners were at 12. I would have loved the Mac Jones pick. And when we talked about that, we liked Mac Jones at 12. We're like, that's all right. Like, it's pretty solid. I get what it is. You're going to save money. You're going to go try to win now with Mac Jones. It's more that I think you just have to reset the timeline earlier or go look for a quarterback earlier. But I like the home run swing with Trey Lance. So
Niners with Mac Jones right now are at best 7-5. At
you think
absolute
so?
best. Jimmy hasn't, like, I guess he lost us the Seahawks game that we just played, but I haven't seen Mac Jones win one, so it's hard for me to say he would have done too much better. I think maybe he wins that one, and there's a game in there that maybe he loses that Jimmy won, but I think 7-5 is probably where the Niners are with Mac Jones, but the ceiling is so much lower. Niners draft class got so much hate, and I think we're going to look back in 5 years and look, Aaron Banks has been apparently pushing Brunskill, who's been above, like, he's been better than both of us.
Brunskill's been good.
He's been solid, but Shanahan came out and said Banks is starting to push him. Jalen Moore has been probably a hit as a 6th-round tackle. Has been okay. He got benched for Tom Compton, but I don't know if that's Kyle being weird, or I don't really understand what's going on there. We're both still high on Trey Sermon. We think once Lance comes in, his role will become a lot more defined. And Ambry Thomas is playing better. Demo has been solid. He's a 5th-round corner. Like, you can't expect a whole lot. So I think we're going to look back and let these guys develop.
You didn't even mention Mitchell.
Exactly.
I mean, everyone knows Mitchell.
Yeah. But
then also Hufanga started multiple games.
Have been solid.
When did everyone decide that you grade a rookie class like 10 games into the year? You have to look like 4 years later. Like, you can't tell that even after the rookie year. Like, if you looked at grading a rookie class after the rookie year and then you looked 5 years later, the grading after the rookie class means absolutely nothing. Like, you have no idea what it looks like. So many guys take a full year. So I totally agree with you there as well. So, all right. Let's
got off the beaten path there.
Yeah. No, that was good though. That was good. So yeah, we'll wrap it up now, but thank you all for listening. If you listen to all of our subtopics, hopefully you like those as well. But this is going to be coming out Wednesday, nothing coming out Thursday, and then something else will be out Friday. Not sure what time. And then I'll do a preview thing for either Friday or Saturday as well. So we'll have Friday, Saturday, Sunday as well posted on this channel. But thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you guys very soon.